Hi, it's Dr. Scott Watson with another Finale tutorial. This is actually the first of a two-part series in how to create a mid-level lead sheet. In an earlier video, we presented how to typeset a simple lead sheet, which included things like setting up the score with a non-transposing treble clef instrument, setting text elements such as the title and composer, setting the time signature, key signature, tempo, and attending to layout items such as the space between systems and the number of measures per system. We also showed you how to use the Speedy entry tool to enter notes and rests. In this video, we're going to explain how to add some more very common and useful features you'd find in a lead sheet, including adding ties, slurs, and other articulations, chord symbols, slash notation like we use in the introduction here, with what Finale calls a staff style, labels for formal sections such as the intro, verse, and outro. We're going to use Finale's expression tool for that, and adding a time signature change. Let's get started. As you can see, we have a version of the Amazing Grace lead sheet set up for you right now. We've already set up the score. We've already put in most of the notes using the Speedy entry tool. If needed, go back and take a look at my earlier video on typesetting a simple lead sheet, and especially for how to use the simple entry tool. But what we're going to do is start here with changing the time signature of the last four measures. So we will select the time signature tool, and we will double click in the measure where we want the time signature change. We'll change the top number to 4, and now we have it as 4/4 from measure 19 to the next time change, or we could say measure 19 through the end of the piece, either one, and then go ahead and put that 4/4 time signature change in. Okay, now let's go ahead and put the remaining notes in these last four measures using the Speedy entry tool. So we'll select Speedy entry. I'll click in my last four measures. I'm going to hold down an E flat on my MIDI keyboard and type the number 7 for the shortcut for whole note. And then here we need another whole note E flat, still holding down the E flat key, typing 7 again. Of course, I want a tie there, so I'm going to type, you guessed it, the letter T, and that gets me the tie. And then here we want two half note E flats, so I'm going to do 6 and 6. The shortcut 6 gets us the half note. And then in our final measure, we want a G. I'm going to hold down the G on my MIDI keyboard and then type 7 again. And of course, it automatically added that extra measure. I'm going to use the selection tool, hit delete to get rid of it. All right, now that we have the notes in, let's go ahead and take care of the tie, slur, and other articulation using the Speedy entry tool. Click right here where we have two notes that need to be tied together, type the shortcut T, and that takes care of our tie. We'll use Smart Shapes to put the slurs in. Select slur, double click on a note, it slurs automatically to the next. So I'm just double clicking on the first note, it completes the slur. By the way, just as a side note, if you wanted to slur more than one note, instead of double clicking on the first note, you double click and hold the first note, and then you don't release until you get to the last note that you want the slur group to be. But we don't have that in this lead sheet. And then the other articulation, we're going to actually use the articulation tool. And this note is going to be legato. Going to click on it and choose legato from the palette that comes up. And the last note, we want it to be a fermata. Going to click on that. And it turns out in Finale, the fermata is an articulation. So that's where we'll find it, and that's how we apply that. Alrighty, next we're going to add the slash notation to the introduction. This is simple. We'll choose the staff tool. We'll select these beats where we want the slash notation, right? All of the first three measures and then 2 beats of the fourth measure. We'll go to the staff menu, select Apply Staff Styles to Score and Parts, and we will choose slash notation. We could have actually just typed the shortcut S, but we'll choose slash notation. And there we have it. All right, let's get our chords in. We'll choose the chord tool and we'll click over this first measure. As long as we have manual input chosen, we can just type E lowercase b. When I hit the space bar to advance, it turns it into a flat sign. Get to the next measure, type F lowercase m7. Hit the space bar to advance. If I want the slash chord notation like I have in the next measure, E lowercase b slash G, hit the space bar, and that's our slash notation. Or same thing here, A lowercase b slash B lowercase b, hit the space bar. You know, I also could use the very cool allow MIDI input, and that is where I actually play a chord on my MIDI keyboard. So right now I'm playing an E flat major chord, and it just types the E flat major chord symbol. And if I want to go here, I could type an E flat major chord, but with G as my lowest note. and it gives me that slash notation. Here I'm going to go back to manual input and just type in A lowercase b add 2 and hit the space bar. And since it's in the chord suffix library, it recognizes it. If you have any questions about chord entry, go look at my earlier video on entering chords in a lead sheet where I mention all of this and much, much more in much more detail. So check that video out. All right, now we're ready to use the expression tool to create the formal headings, such as intro. So we're going to double click above the first measure here. We're going to click on rehearsal marks. That's the category that we want the style. And I'm going to say create rehearsal mark and just type in all caps intro. I am going to choose to put an enclosure around it, a rectangle, and then just say OK, and then assign. I'll have to drag this to where I want it, but now I have my intro labeled. Let's put a label at the beginning of the first verse. Double click again. Now this time I'm just going to duplicate intro because I want all the same settings, and then edit that duplicate and just put verse, type verse, and say OK and assign. Now I've got the verse, and I'm going to just add one more down here for the outro. Double click, choose verse, duplicate, edit that, type outro this time, and OK and assign. And so we have these nice formal labels telling us where the intro, verse, and outro. We could do that for verse 1, verse 2, chorus, bridge, anything in a lead sheet. I almost forgot. We want to add a ritardando in the outro. So we're going to still use the same tool, the expression tool. Double click right here at the outro. And let's choose tempo alterations. And ritardando is one of the pre-programmed tempo alterations in Finale already. We don't have to create it from scratch, although it would be easy enough to do. So we're going to just say assign that and then drag it where we want. Well, that's it for part 1 of this video on typesetting a mid-level lead sheet. Be sure to tune in for part 2, where we'll discuss entering triplet rhythms, entering song lyrics, another staff style called rhythmic notation, and adding simple repeats. See you soon.